Hello there everyone, I'm uxwbill, and today I present for your consideration what I sincerely hope will be an interesting and perhaps even informative video about remote keyless entry fobs. You see, a couple weeks ago, Naughty Truck flashed up a message in the Instrument Panel Information Center saying that Key Fob 1's battery was low. I'll get it right eventually. And if you were looking at these two key fobs, which one would you say had seen more use and probably qualified as Key Fob 1? Well, I don't know about you, but personally, I'd go for the one on the right. But if you did, you'd be wrong, because that's actually key fob number 2. And oh, by the way, if your key fob ever does anything amusing like this, you certainly don't have to go to your General Motors dealer and buy a whole new one if the electronics inside are still in functional condition, because there are lots of wonderful sellers on eBay that have replacement shells and buttons available for these, and probably many other common makes and models of car as well. Of course, there are a lot of half-truths floating around about these things. Someone told my mother a number of years ago, someone who worked for a GM dealership no less, that when the batteries in these ran out, the only option was to replace them with a new one. And I don't think they were trying to make a hard sale or maliciously mislead her. I think that was just a lack of knowledge on their part. And speaking of lack of knowledge, as I said, this thing flashed up a message about having a low battery, and in the General Motors owner's manual, for as far back as I can remember and across many different cars, they say the batteries in these should last about a year under normal use. I've never actually replaced one until now, and that's why I'm making this video, because I thought it would be interesting to see just how much this thing had managed to get out of the little CR2032 battery that powers it. Of course, in order to do that, we'll need to pop it open, which can most certainly be done. The prescribed method for doing this is to use a coin of some description. I've got a quarter right here. You just stick it in the edge there, and ordinarily I do this on video, but this is yet another one of those two-hand jobs, so I'll have to set the camcorder down, and I'll be right back in just an instant thanks to the magic of video editing, though not, I'm sure, before some clever clogs descends from the heavens and enters the comments to say, you need to buy a tripod, apparently ignorant of the fact that I own many tripods and have certainly used them. I'm just too lazy to go and get one right now. Alright, as previously threatened, I'm back and I've liberated the battery from the key fob, so let's go ahead and see what kind of a shape it's in. We'll just fire up the good old voltmeter over here, get it set to DC volts, which is what it defaults to. And then again, because I have a shortage of hands here, since one is operating the camcorder, I've arranged to make a very handy test of the CR2032 battery. No, don't really do that, because all in the world you will end up doing is shorting out the battery, and if it still contains a decent amount of electrical energy, or chemicals that will soon be converted into electric energy, the result could be some nasty burns. These things don't have enough voltage to provide an appreciable shock to a person who is of average health, but if you have some sort of a pacemaker or something, you'll want to be careful. So there we go, we're hooked up. And at least as far as the open circuit voltage of this battery is concerned, it's still quite good. I don't have a way to test it under load, but that is certainly not the result that I would have expected. So how is it that Naughty Truck got the idea that this key fob was suffering from a dead battery? I guess I'll take it outside and use it to unlock the doors and just see what actually ends up happening. If that clears the warning, maybe it was spurious. This thing wasn't in a particularly cold location. It was sitting on my nightstand, and as my form of luck always happens to go, I found it when I was looking for something else, specifically, and if you really care, a digital camera. I never did find the digital camera, but I'd been looking for this a couple weeks ago because I wanted to find it and make sure that it wasn't causing trouble somewhere and replace the battery before it started doing something sinister like leaking, but I couldn't find it. That's how it always goes. My life is a comedy. I'd just love to know who actually finds it as funny as they do. So we'll throw this back together and see if it'll actually open the doors on Naughty Truck and if that warning goes away. Now sometimes when you take the batteries out of these key fobs, you do have to resynchronize them with the receiver in the vehicle. And in the case of many GM cars and trucks, you simply do that by holding down both the lock and unlock buttons at the same time. Odds are, if the only button functional on your key fob is the lock button, you probably need to do this. Usually the vehicle will acknowledge that with a honk of the horn or something. I guess we'll go over here. Well, it certainly unlocked the doors. And it seems like it'll relock the doors. So I guess we'll see if that warning has gone away in the instrument cluster. Alright, here I am in the truck. You're looking at the instrument cluster right now, in case you couldn't tell from the superlative video lighting that I am using right now. And we'll see if that low battery warning still happens to come up. Go ahead and turn the switch on there. And sure enough, it does still appear. So I'm guessing that when the key fob is actually operated, the battery voltage is dropping low enough to trip whatever threshold it has to indicate that the battery is getting weak. This does bring to mind another question. I wonder if this key fob is capable of sending a battery low distress message, so to speak, all of its own accord, if the little transmitter within can power itself up and send a message to the receiver in the truck, or if it simply sends that message along with one of the commands like lock, unlock, or panic. I actually tend to lean toward the former, that the remote can send a signal when it senses that the battery is low, because I had not used these keys, didn't even know where they were when the warning started showing up within the instrument cluster. Alright, so let's go ahead and change a battery, but before we do that, I'd like to inform you all that here again, the notion that to someone somewhere in the universe, my life is a comedy is still very relevant to me. We'd been cleaning up in the dining room, moving my dad's office to another room of the house, and while I was working on that, I found a huge basket of batteries that I went through, found a brand new, perfect, single-pack Duracell CR2032 battery. Went to pop it out of the package tonight because it was already partially opened, wanted to test it. I got it out of the package. I went over here to grab the voltmeter. No sooner than I'd done so, battery just disappeared. I have no idea where it went. It didn't fall on the floor, I know that much. And for a moment I was afraid I'd have to crack into this dual pack of Energizer 2032s, which I probably bought for computers. But then as I was looking through stuff over next to the uninterruptible power supply on this workbench, I discovered this. And it looks like this battery's still brand new, so we'll just pop that out of there. See if I can peel the little child-proofing cover off of it. I suppose that if I were an evil-minded sort of person, I would say that that is a smooth coating to aid in digestion. But that would be a terrible thing to joke about, because these batteries can really do a lot of damage if they're swallowed. So don't do that. You're not supposed to touch these with your hands because your skin oils supposedly react with the battery and degrade the casing. I've never personally had that problem. And if I was worried about it, I'd just rub it between a folded over portion of my shirt, and then I'd stick it into place, which, since I'm doing it on camera, will not go smoothly. That'll make me look like a complete doofus, as if I wasn't doing a good enough job of that already. So with that done, we'll click this back together. And I must say, these things are surprisingly laundry-proof, because I've laundered at least one of these a couple times, and it's always lived to tell about it. I've never even had to take the battery out and let it dry out. I guess that rubber sealing membrane that makes up the button panel, the button pad assembly, serves to waterproof the thing adequately. Hey, I recognize that car. Alright, let's see if that produced any change, or if this is another one of those demonstrations of General Motors' superior commitment to quality in electrical design. Huh, it still complains. Maybe I should read the book, find out how to reset that. That might be an idea. I would have expected it to be intelligent enough to reset itself, but maybe not. Or maybe that fob is slightly broken somehow. Mere moments after shooting the last portion of this video, I stumbled across how to get rid of the key fob 1 battery low message. I started out in the most logical of places, Naughty Truck's Owner's Manual, only to discover that in addition to being completely mum on the subject, it doesn't even acknowledge that the truck has a warning for this particular problem. It also seems that someone at General Motors was not particularly careful in their proofing. It's just the latest proofing error I found in that manual out of many over the years. It says that you're supposed to turn to page 117 for more information about replacing key fob batteries when you're already on page 117. In any event, I thought I would share in this video with you the ultimate solution. I know I said I'd throw it into the video description, but haha, right? What a card, huh? Who reads video descriptions? And speaking of other features on YouTube that no one ever cares about or has used for anything in the history of ever and certainly didn't want in place of annotations, wait a minute. I'd better not get off on that rant because it might never stop until we got down to the not suitable for monetization problem that's going around YouTube these days. Anyway, here's the solution if you run into this same problem yourself and can't get the message to reset. Now, all I can tell you is that this worked for me. It may not work for you depending upon the temperature outdoors, the condition of the battery, the barometer, and what various celestial objects within the Kuiper belt are doing at any given time. With the truck on and the engine running, I went ahead and pushed the door lock button, and then just for good measure I hit the door unlock button. Shut the truck off, cycled the ignition, and found much to my delight that the message was gone. So, thank you again for watching. This really is the end of the video. I certainly do appreciate it if you made it this far, and as always, I'm interested in hearing your constructive views in the commentary.